Recess. Cameroon. Green. First edition. Come on. I'm breathing the air. I'm eating the fish. I'm drinking the water. We gotta save the world. Yeah. Think about the people of tomorrow. For what we do will echo till tomorrow. Let's put our hands together, heal our earth together, plant more trees and save the earth.
So let's stand together as one, to make a change, to make it green, to make it green.
Let's clean up the streets and make it beautiful. Plant more trees, save the earth. Hey, together we can change the world. Hey, I know you and me, we gon' make it. Let's do it like a family. Plant one tree, I plant another one. Let's make the earth a better place. You know I can do it alone. You know I can do it alone. Nobody can stop this. Let's do it for the next generation. Malaria, they do me. Cholera, they do me. Oh, because what I don't spoil. Oh, dirty for back.
What we are doing to our forest today is a mirror reflection of what we are doing to one another in another way. Dear televiewers, thanks for choosing us at this moment. It is Keep It Green on High Television, and today's edition we are focused on women and conservation. We are looking at the contributions which women have to give in as far as conservation is concerned, and today's talking point: how can women effectively participate in conservation? Before I move any further, permit me introduce the persons who are joining us today on today's edition of Keep It Green on High Television. I would welcome for the very first time the Community Development Officer for the Mount Cameroon National Park. That is no other person than Madame Ufendem Tator. I hope I got that correctly. Welcome once more to High Television.
Thank you.
Much welcome for the first time you're joining us, and today we're talking on women and conservation. I'm going to welcome the second person from Boost Green, no other person than Sunday Etienne. Good afternoon and welcome to High Television.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, and I'll move to some of the faces which you've been seeing time and again, but not so often on High Television. From the Resource Center of Environment and Sustainable Development, I want to welcome the agricultural engineer from that organization, Madame Kemeni Leah Alida. Welcome once more to High Television. Oh, you're so much welcome. We are so glad you made it here. And I equally want to welcome the head of department for natural resource management at the Resource Center for Environment and Sustainable Development. No other person than Naseli Okadio. You're much welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure once more talking with you, Joyce.
The pleasure is shared, and we hope our televiewers will be blessed by the presence of these dynamic persons. And today's focus will be looking at women and conservation. What role do women play as far as conservation is concerned? And today I'm going to begin with Naseli, who is going to talk about she's going to tell us briefly what conservation is all about, and maybe create the link between the women, the role women play in conservation. I will start with Naseli. What is conservation all about?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, looking back in my days when I used to be young, but it doesn't mean I'm old. When I heard of conservation, I actually thought of leaving it untouched, meaning you don't touch anything. If my father used to say conserve it, I always think of leaving it the way it is, don't touch it. But in today's world, when we hear of sustainable development, we say that we cannot do without resources because the food we eat comes from our natural environment. So practically everything we deal with comes from our natural environment, that is resources. So now linking that into this context, when we talk of conservation, is actually you using resources in a reasonable manner, so much so that your guarantee of resources not just today but even tomorrow.
Summarily, conservation is preserving what we have in all aspects so that posterity can come and meet and equally enjoy the same services which we have been enjoying from nature. Previously 2 weeks ago, so much talk about conservation. We are not going to lay more emphasis on that. We are going to the crux of the matter. We are looking at conservation and women. Previously, when I hear conservation, I always think it's a man thing. I want to go with Madame Tato. What do you think? Can you create a link between conservation and women? What do women have to do as far as conservation is concerned? Your own opinion.
Thank you, Joyce. I know that women have a great role. You know that women, they have this mastery of their environment. Women nurture so many things. So as far as conservation is concerned, you need to protect, you need to preserve. And whatever you have to use in the environment, you do it sustainably so that the future generation will also come and see what you're doing and make good use of it. And they have to conserve not only biodiversity, but you have the other natural resources and the environment. So women are the ones that are always there and they use the resources in different aspects. So they can always manage it well and ensure that their future generations will have something to do with it.
Okay, I'll now move to Leah or Nasali. Do you wanted to? It's like you each wanted to add something before I move on to just add it on before we continue.
Yes. Adding to what she said, women and the environment are closely bound and interconnected. We could see that women have been immortalized as powerful symbols of nature. We hear of Mother Earth. Mother is women, feminine. We hear of Earth Goddess. Goddess refers to woman. We hear of the Mother River, otherwise known as the Yellow River in China. That's the Chinese history. So we see that even the role women play, being as farmers, being collectors of water, fuel, wood. So women are the ones who actually use natural resources the most. So therefore, there is no need or there is no way in which you can talk of conservation without actually involving the women 100% in it.
Okay, definitely. I'll now move to our agricultural engineer. What are the different areas of conservation where women are directly involved in?
Okay, thank you, madam, for giving me the floor. As she earlier said, women are interconnected to environment. They are farmers. They are collectors of non-timber forest products. They go and carry water. This is natural resources. So they cannot do without it. There are things in a normal day, in domestic activity, in households and management. They interact more intensively with natural resources. So women cannot do without it. And for that reason, they need to conserve it so that future generation will also enjoy the resources.
Definitely. And now move to the lone gentleman who joined the crew, that is Etienne. What to you are some of the things or some of the key rules women play as far as conservation is concerned?
Okay, women play roles like the other people said, the carrying of water, gathering of firewood. They act as caregivers to these animals and plants. Though some of these women do it unknowingly. So that's just the few things they do as far as conservation is concerned.
Summary, what I think about women being involved as far as conservation, I think women have everything to do as far as conservation is concerned, because when it comes to the exploitation or the use of natural resources at the local level and sometimes and even at a larger scale, it has to do with women. Talk about agricultural resources, talk about everything in every facet, you will meet women. So I think personally that women have a great role to play as far as conservation conservation is concerned, and I think that we can't talk conservation without including women, because if we have to talk about maybe one of the issues or one of the challenges as far as conservation is concerned, like improper waste disposal. We'll look at maybe waste disposal, domestic waste. Who are the main producers of domestic waste? They are women. So we have to talk about conservation or any other thing as far as an environment is concerned. Women are not supposed to be left out. So I want us to look at this other, the indispensability of women as far as conservation is concerned. At a different level, I'll start with Lesali. What are the key things which you think women can contribute to conservation?
Yeah, first, to make it easier, I would first of all like us to categorize the different types of conservation, of which we have environmental conservation, that is conserving your environment, best practices to make sure that your environment is not just clean, but you live in an environment which is a resource generative. We equally have forest conservation, which is actually conserving every resources within the forest, the biodiversity, that is the flora and the fauna part of it, and we equally have the marine conservation. So bringing in the key role in which women could actually be involved in conservation. Women could be, before, I'll take you back to the 18th and 19th centuries. Before, women were actually relegated in conservation aspects and equally other social sphere of life. They were seen as not being productive, or maybe their ideas didn't count. But nowadays we hear of lots of women activists, environmental activists, who are actually changing situations. I'll take you with the case of India. We see that India, the women there, they discovered that due to their poor farming practices, the topsoils were being leached away, and this led to choking of the water drainage, and the water drainage being choked up led to a high concentration of salt within the waters. And we all know when water is so salty, crops cannot be productive. So the women took upon themselves and identified this error, and they therefore implemented best or positive agricultural practices, and due to that 700 hectares of land was recovered within 3 years. So we actually see that women can really play a lot. So now, what can they actually do to be key actors in conservation? Decision making, the aspect of decision making, they should not be relegated. There should be that gender mainstreaming in every aspect, because every idea counts. They should not just say a woman's place is in the kitchen. You don't know the idea that you're leaving behind. We equally have access to microfinance. If they gain access to microfinance, believe you me, some of them do carry out poor farming practices because of limited in financial capabilities. They cannot afford those equipments which are environmentally friendly. So if they get access to this microfinance, they can afford and even stop the slash and burn bad practices which they are carrying.
Definitely, that's one way which thinks that women can actually contribute to conservation. But I want us to go back. Why do we have to even bring women? Why do we have to bring women? Any reasons why you think we have to bring women into conservation, besides the fact that they are, as I said before, they might be at every level, women might be involved in conservation. I will start with Madame Offendem, I hope I got that correctly. Ofundem. Okay, Ofundem Tato. Why do you think women should be included when we talk conservation? Why do you think we should bring women inside?
Okay, thank you very much. Women are the key role players when it comes to natural resources and their environment. And it's very necessary to bring in women because they have this building up ideas. So you see, when you go to Kenya, you have movements like the Green Belt movement, where women have to come together to even plant trees to see that they can prevent erosion. They can even control sewage disposal and even drainage. And they really have to go into forest management and tree planting. All of that is very good. And even their agricultural resources. They get to the forest. They don't only do farming, but they can even collect non-timber forest products, which they are processing. You go, for example, in Southwest, we don't even need to go very far. You have the Self-Employed Women Association, where the women have to come together in Manfe and just to collect NTFP and process it, and they do all of that sustainably without disturbing the natural integrity of the forest, and they just collect. So with all of that, they have to build their homes. They have to take care of so many things around them. And with that, men will always look at where the money will come and they live, but women have to ensure that those things have to continue over and over. And we'll see that over generations will still come and meet those different resources there and in the different areas of conservation.
Definitely, I want to believe, I am trying to make you believe that maybe men are so much so focused on the economic aspect of conservation. Meanwhile, women are interested not only at the economic aspect or advantage of conservation, but equally ensuring that posterity comes and enjoy the same benefits which have benefited before. Do you think women, when we talk about conservation, women should be put at the forefront such that we can actually preserve our natural resources for posterity? I'm still with you, Madame Ofundem. Well, I hope I got that correctly.
Yeah, thank you. I think that women have to be there from the planning, even the conceptualization, the planning, and even implementing the different conservation aspects. As much, unlike before, where they thought that women could not really contribute positively to conservation and even in the sciences. But if you educate the women, you empower them, you see that they have very bright ideas. So it's always good to bring them in.
Okay, definitely.
So at least there should be that balance with the men. We are not like trying to compare the men and the women in this case. We just want to showcase the role that women have to play in conservation.
Definitely, women equally have potentials as far as conservation is concerned. So it is important that we showcase our potentials. If you are just tuning in, you're watching Keep It Green on High Television. It's an environmental program that comes up every Thursdays at 3:30 p.m. to 4:30, and you have a rebroadcast on Tuesday at 10 a.m. And today we are looking at the role of women in conservation. Our talking point, we are asking you televiewers, how do you think women can effectively participate to conservation? What are some of the things you think women can do to ensure that the natural resources that we have today, we can still have them 20, 30, 50 or 100 years afterwards? That's what we're talking. We'll have the various panelists. We have the agricultural engineers. We have program directors at the different NGOs within the national territory. I will continue with you here in the studio. I would go to Madam Alida. What do you think women should be integrated or should be at the forefront or should participate to conservation activities within our country?
Okay, madam, thank you. I've earlier said the women and conservation is something that we cannot separate. So what we need to do is to ensure that those resources are in place, because the problem we are facing today with the environmental issue, climate change, ozone depletion, we really need to conserve our environment. If not, the future generation will come and make nothing. So where are the areas that the women are supposed to act? In the domain of environmental education, the women are supposed to come in every domain, because sometimes they may be practicing some activity without knowing that they're really affecting the environment. And in the domain of community activities that is linked to environment, they can be a conservation activist, environmental activist. In all the other domains, decision making, they can always come in at that particular aspect. Why are we involving women? Because we earlier said it, we realized that the women are the ones using the resources, even though their contribution is always, or they are always kept aside. In as far as that conservation aspect is concerned, going deep in the forest to look at the animals, going being conservationists around the forest area, we cannot even see a woman as a forest guard. They have to involve
they are, but not
in few cases.
Yeah,
in few cases. You understand?
Yes, I'm sorry to cut you short. They are women. I know that Mount Cameroon National Park should have forest guards with our women. We have women who choose biomonitoring as a career. We have, I know, a couple of ladies at the Environment and Rural Development Foundation, which are so much dedicated. We have, I know of a colleague who always had to spend all of our time in the forest doing conservation. So I think women are there, but in a very
In a number,
limited
yes,
number.
that's it.
So we are soliciting, in essence, that the number of women
Should increase.
as far as conservation is concerned. They are already dedicated, especially in the agricultural sector, in the agricultural sector, where we have women at a different level, strictly or maybe engaged in adopting environmentally friendly activities in carrying out the different agricultural practices which they are adopting. I'll now move to Etienne. What are the key rules? I want to ask you, what key thing do you think women, we can limit it to the Cameroonian context? We know of different groups in Kenya, in Australia, in India, that women have taken upon themselves to ensure that our natural resources are being conserved. In the southwest region, we have a lot of natural resources. We have national parks. We have so many things at our own disposal. So, to you, what do you think women should do to ensure that at a different level, even at the local, the least, even the oldest grandmother or the 5-year-old kid, young girl, what do you think she could do to ensure that the little resources that we are enjoying or benefiting from, her grandchildren, or why not great-grandchildren, could meet these resources and equally benefit from them?
I think the question you're posing to me is why conservation?
Definitely.
Okay, we need to conserve these resources because it protects the environment and protects us. If we live in an unhealthy environment, this definitely means we'll become unhealthy as well. Then, talking about why conservation and linking to women, women are directly related to these resources. They are the ones who go to farms and they carry water, everything, all of the activities carried out in the environment. You cannot fail to see a woman. So we need to conserve, we need women to participate more in these activities so that the environment we live in, because the environment we live in, so that we'll secure a better future, which is safe. We hear of ozone layer depletion. It's because of the previous activities that were carried out. If women were informed or sensitized, what is happening now, like this climate change, would not be happening.
Okay, adding to
Everybody wants to see one at a time. Let Mr. Lee continue.
excuse me. Adding to that, I'll take us one of the key thing why I think women should be involved in conservation. I'll take us back to demographics. If we look at statistics, we have more women, and as time goes on, we keep on having more women. So there is that tendency that if you work on the mindset of women, imagine the percentage of persons you're going to be changing. Imagine the number of mindsets you're going to be changing. Equally, women are bearers and conserver of life. They are the ones who give birth to children, and they are equally the ones to first guide these children. So there is that need, therefore, to involve women in conservation. I'll take us to the agricultural part of it. Women are more involved in agriculture. Therefore, what are the things they can do in the agricultural domain to make sure that our soils continue remaining fertile, our trees are not depleted, we don't suffer so much consequences of climate change? First and foremost, there is environmental education. They have to put in they have to take it upon themselves as a habit. You can see it, you as a mother, in the evening when you're relaxing in the house with your children, take environmental education to be part and parcel of you, even though they study it in school. But it should be something you put it in your time schedule, that when my children are studying every day, environmental education is part of it. So what aspect of environmental education will you be teaching them? Those best practices to make sure that they don't litter, they don't dispose of waste improperly, they don't dump litters in our water bodies. They actually adopt those practices that suit or favor our environment. So if we go to the agricultural part, since they are mostly involved in agriculture, now they should stop some of those bad practices that are not ecologically friendly, because you might think that it's benefiting you in the immediate future, but in the long run it's very, very detrimental. slash and burn, please do not practice it. When you do slash and burn, what does fire do to microorganisms? It destroys. What does fire actually do? There is that heat. You even the water bodies, you dry it up. So they should try to implement practices like mulching. Instead of you doing slash and burn, you practice mulching. You do crop rotation, where you can divide a piece of plot into several plots. This on plot A, you have plot A, plot B. On plot A, you plant maize, while you plant huckleberry on plot B. So the next year you rotate. Instead of planting maize on plot A, you plant the leguminous huckleberry, because they give out nitrogen that enriches the soil. So they can equally do livestock, integrate livestock and crop growing. So there are some of these practices that are simple. They are not practices that you need a lot of money, you need a lot of equipment to afford, because they are the ones mostly involved in it. So we are begging, calling on the women to try as much as possible to foster environmental education and implement best agricultural practices.
Definitely, women should be educated. They should educate their children at home, and they should equally adopt friendly, environmentally friendly agricultural practices in carrying out their agricultural activities. I will go back to Madam Tato before she took over the microphone. You wanted to say something? Or what are the key things, or what are some of the things which you think women should do as far as conservation is concerned?
Yeah, so I was saying, especially with respect to agriculture, most often they use pesticides that are really detrimental to the environment. And in a short run, you make the money and you realize, but you see that it has a lot of health effects. And even research has proven that those pesticides that we use on crops, it affects us gradually, which is not really good. But as women, we are there with the children. They say seeing is believing, and what you do, it's easy for the children to copy what you do. So women are so conscious that when you even get to your farms, there are ways that you can manage, even using soybeans. By planting that, it will help to enrich your soil. You don't necessarily need to be doing other things or to be burning. Just like my colleague said, when you burn like that, you are destroying those soil organisms that need to enrich the soil. So you rather need to plant. And at least that practice is very efficient in the Northwest, where they use their sunflower, which is enrich the soil. It is very good. So we just have to try to use natural means of doing our agricultural production. And women have a key role, even in forest management, tree planting. Sometimes you can spend in a short while reforestation. You really have to get into that. Women training, maybe in their different groups, we have CIGs and local NGOs that you can really train them on nursery management, that they plant their trees. We always need to plant trees. We need that greenery around us. All of that will help to control the climate change and other things that affect our environment.
Definitely, it also centers around, all your suggestions center around women should do this, but I think women who still carry out slash and burn, which is one very unfriendly way of carrying out agriculture, is that at some point some of them are not aware of the dangers which they are actually causing to the soil. I think my suggestion, I think that a massive or an intensified campaign, sensitization campaign on different environmentally friendly attitudes should be carried out with focus on women. Because I would borrow from Nesale, who says that we'll go to demographics. Women are more, their population overpowers that of men, and equally since they are bearer of children, since they bring forth life, they equally know the value. It's until when you know the value of something that you can know how to preserve it. I think with that natural, that biological aspect of theirs, that they bring forth life and they will know how to nurture life, they will equally know how to transfer same feelings or same attitude or same regards to the natural resources that we have. In essence, what I'm saying is women should be educated, or they should be empowered, or they should be sensitized on the importance of an equally positive environmentally friendly activities, such that we can achieve conservation at every level. But again, our discussion is a little bit tailored just to agriculture. Is that the only thing when we talk conservation that women are involved in? That's a question I keep asking myself. Is that the only thing? I think there are other things, not only agriculture, that women are involved in when we talk conservation.
Yes, as I said earlier, so there are different areas of conservation.
Definitely.
Yeah, which agriculture and soil conservation is just one aspect of it. We also have forest management and tree planting. That's another aspect of conservation. The sewage disposal, even drainage management. And you even get to climate measures, climate change. All of that are different aspects of conservation that women really have to get involved. They are already working on it, but the number of women involved in it is limited because they are not really given the chance. So if they are given adequate opportunity, they can come out with brilliant ideas on how we can move forward.
Okay, even in a home, you can still be talking about conservation in a household, as we're talking about waste disposal. The way they dispose waste, it matters a lot. You will see in a house like this, a woman just mixing everything, mixing the undegradable waste with the degradable waste and just go and dump it somewhere. It's very bad. Sometimes they even dump it, it will spoil the water. The water will be affected. So conservation is even in a home. Household disposal, the way they also treat water that we carry and drink, water that we use for agriculture is something of concern. Water resources is life, so this also need to conserve it. It's another part of conservation.
Okay, we are going to, I want us to take a break, let us catch our breath, and we'll right back, we'll come back to continue this edition of the program.
Don't tire me, oh, but now me and you go fix some more.
Like it's never been. Look within, you'll see. So says Gamma Green.
Mama them, papa them, this love story for one man day. Make a pen and pass together. Make her put the hands together. Make we do the things together. Come on, let's work in harmony.
I'm seeing a kekele in the low. Si vi kele itlata. Nesis luani sensele. Isu sukuluani zetu esisayo.
Pourquoi couper les forêts africaines? Maintenant l'on se plaint de la famine, la chaleur. Les forêts africaines, américaines sont les poumons de la terre.
Osangana poesalo. Elangina kovanda. Potozanga yelokote. Namokilia biodiversité. Keep it green, like it's never been. Let the world see the unseen. So says Gamma Green. Keep it green, like it's never been. Look within, you'll see. So says Gamma Green.
Gamma Green. Ooh, yeah.
Recess. Cameroon.
You're welcome back, televiewers. If you're just tuning in, you're watching Keep It Green on High Television. It is an environmental program sponsored by the Resource Center for Environment and Sustainable Development, and it comes up every Thursdays at 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. and you have a rebroadcast on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. and today's edition we are looking at the role of women in conservation, and we are asking you back at home watching us, what are some of the things or what are the key things you think women can do to ensure conservation. We have already explored conservation, the different levels or the different rules which women carried out or involved as far as conservation is concerned, and why women should even be integrated in conservation. And we are here again in the studios. I'm joined by so many different persons today on set, and we are still discussing the role of women in conservation. We are still looking at the different things which women should get involved in as far as conservation is concerned. We discussed earlier that women should carry on the responsibility of educating their children on environmentally friendly attitudes. Maybe it starts educating. They say charity, they say starts at home. Women, maybe when their children come back to school, you should tell them, okay, don't litter. If you finish, you may always make use of the trash can, or you educate your children, or even you at home, you properly manage your domestic waste such that you separate the degradable and the non-degradable waste, such that if you're disposing them, you dispose them properly. I'll now join back our panelists in the program, and I want Madam Tato to throw more light. We were talking about the different aspects or the different sectors where women are involved in conservation. You wanted to talk something on waste. Was it marine or waste management or so?
No, you have already said it. I just wanted to say that in the house, when you're managing your waste, it's good to separate the plastic from the solid waste. That can be even go through recycling. That will really help to manage situation. And this attitude of dumping waste in streams around, it's not really good because it affects the environment. It's not a conservation or environmental friendly approach of doing things. And even you go to some communities, they have the catchment area. Normally that area is supposed to be protected. They don't need to clear so close. But sometimes you go, it's a catchment area, source of water for the community. They will clear, the area is so exposed. All of that leads to drying up. So we really have to watch it and ensure that the area is well protected. And women who are the ones that fetch water, who go to all those places, they can really facilitate the preservation of that such areas.
Definitely. Let me take on this message before we continue. Hello to you, ladies in the studio. I'm enjoying your show. Just to ask, what's the advantage of doing the rotation, as the lady with the white said, taking example of plot A, now plot B? That is Malik. You didn't tell us where you're writing us from. That was, I think Madam Adida should throw more light. He wants to understand, or it was Naseli. Throw more light on the different agricultural practice which you were suggesting to our televiewers.
Okay, thanks once more. It shows you're actually working hand in glove with us. I really appreciate you for that. When we talk of crop rotation as a sustainable farming practice, the example I used of plot A and B, having one plot and dividing into several plots. Okay, plot A, like 2018 or the first quarter of the planting season, you've divided your plot into two, A and B. In A, you plant maize, and in B, you plant huckleberry. Why? Or you could plant soybeans. Soybeans are leguminous crops, and they give out nitrogen. And we all know that the essential elements needed to boost soil fertility, you have nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Nitrogen happens to be the most important, even though all are important. So these soybeans or crops that bear their fruits in pods, you equally have even the red beans. When you plant it in plot B, it gives out this nitrogen that enriches the soil. And maize, it's there, it gives out its own nutrient. So if you rotate the next planting quarter of the planting season on plot A, instead of doing maize, you do beans. You see that your maize is actually going to do very well on plot B because the soil has been enriched with nitrogen. And now you're planting soybeans on plot A, it's actually going to enrich the soil too of nitrogen. And besides, if you don't rotate, do crop rotation or do mixed farming, right? Planting a particular crop on a piece of land, it gives out one nutrient which is not sustainable. So there is therefore that need of you rotating, changing with different nutrients that enriches the soil.
I think definitely we would come with another edition specifically, because if you were keen, you realize that when we talk of agricultural practices in each edition, people want to know more. I think we should one day focus on just best agricultural practice, maybe teach them on the different agroforestry techniques and any other techniques, or the introduction of nitrogen fixing trees in our various farms. We promise you are going to, together with the team, come up with something that is going to educate you more as far as that is concerned. And today we are talking, our focus is on women and conservation. Now, if we talk conservation, I want to come at the level of Cameroon. The different ministries that are involved, we have that of environment and sustainable development, we have the Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife, we have that of energy and water resources, we have that of agriculture, we have that of livestock and fisheries. These are the key stakeholders. If we have to talk about conservation, it's all about natural resources. I will ask each and every one of us here, if we were to advise these different delegations as one body, let's just try to merge, because they all center on the management of our natural resources. And we talk conservation, we're talking about conserving, preserving these resources for posterity. If we were to advise them, what was the main thing that you are going to hit on? I will start with Etienne. What is the main thing you are going, if you were to advise, let's say just join these bodies together, if we were to advise them one thing for us to achieve to effectively conserve our natural resources, what will it be?
Okay, what I will advise them first is to employ more women in their ministry. Secondly, I will ask them to do campaigns and sensitizations to the rural communities. They should go to these rural areas and meet the women. The women are the ones directly involved, so if they meet them and talk to them, tell them what they should do and what they should not do, I think it will greatly improve on our environmental health. Thank you.
Okay, definitely. He should. You just answered the second part. I almost cut you short, but thank God I didn't cut you short, because I wanted to ask why you would, on strong terms, recommend that they should recruit women. I think recruiting women will not be quite effective, but empowering these women first, educating them first, empowering, so that they first of all understand what it is all about before recruiting them at their various ministries. I think that will be a plus. I now move to Madame Tato. What will you advise? I think you are from an environmental background also, because you work with the Mount Cameroon National Park. You know the different areas where women are lacking. So if we were to merge, don't only look at your ministry, that of forestry, but equally look across all these ministries that I mentioned earlier, what would be the key thing that you will recommend to them that they do, such that we effectively conserve our natural resources?
Okay, thank you. I would think that all of this ministry involved in different aspects of conservation, there should be that synergy. They can work together and know what to do, when, where, and how to do it. And you have to know the approach of conservation in a city, say Douala, is very different from the approach that you would take in a remote area, say around Akwaya. So you have to work on, see the different aspects. You have a good sensitization message. And now get women, especially the civil society organizations and the government. Now there should be that link, they work together, because we really have to support each other to realize this dream. So when you sensitize them now on the different aspects of conservation, what they need to do and what they should not do, all of that will help to bring them together. And once the women are empowered, unlike before where they will say you don't need to educate the girl child, but I tell you, if you educate the girl child, you educate the nation. So they really have to empower the women, especially training the female children to go to, once they're educated, they will contribute a lot to conservation and development. So you have to think of all of that and really come up with a good package to sensitize them, get them involved. They really have to be hands-on, not just sit, maybe really be relegated at the background, or just as housewives, but as actors in the conservation aspect. And so all those ministries, Ministry of Forestry, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Energy Resources, all of them that synergy should be there,
and
so
I
that
think
we handle
even the
it.
Ministry of Basic, Secondary and Higher Education should
That is
be
good.
involved.
Ministry of Basic
Women empowerment
Ministry
as
of
well.
Basic Education, Women
Family
Empowerment,
and
even Minepart. And so much so
Definitely.
that the aspect of basic education, secondary education, they really have to even involve conservation education in their curriculum. that will help the children even from primary. They already have that knowledge of conservation, so that as they grow up, they cannot depart from it. They will always be conscious of different aspects of conservation.
Wow, thank you for that beautiful input, and I hope the various stakeholders which are involved are equally hearing our plea, such that together we can build a healthy and a very beautiful environment. I will still want to stay a little bit I want to focus a little bit on the Mount Cameroon National Park. What are some of the lapses which you think, or some of the holes which you think women could fill? Not only limiting to the national park. I think there are some key activities within conservation that women are not actually involved. What will you recommend, or some of the fields that you recommend women to engage more in?
Well, thank you. In the field of forestry, especially the case of Mount Cameroon National Park, as of now, I've not really identified any labs, because they have this approach, the operational strategy of Mount Cameroon National Park. They have this collaborative management approach, wherein the different villages that they work with, because the Mount Cameroon National Park is like a core zone, and you have target villages at the periphery of the Mount Cameroon National Park. So they work with the different communities, and they ensure that the different committees that they form to work with, there is that the women are always involved. Women are part of the committees. If there's a committee of 3 persons, you have at least a woman should be there. So women are represented in all the committees, or all the different the organigram of activities of Mount Cameroon National Park.
Definitely, it means in carrying out its activities, the Mount Cameroon National Park is actually bringing together all stakeholders. Collaborative management approach is one that brings in the different stakeholders, irrespective of their gender, of their sex, both, and I think they take special considerations of the women, because they believe and understand that women, we can't talk environment or any other thing on earth leaving out women, because they are the bearers of life. I will now move to the agricultural engineer. If you were given the opportunity to advise these different stakeholders that we enumerated together recently, what is the key thing that you're going to tell them to ensure that our natural resources are conserved?
Well, thank you. You talk of several ministry. Those are the people involved in decision making. It is good they involve women in their decision making process. It is very important, because they have too much to give. They can advocate for conservation, since they know that they are so linked with those resources. That is what they have to add on what the people have already said.
Okay, she doesn't want to repeat what others have said. I'll now move to Naseli. What I know, you're always full of so much stuff. So what would you advise to the different stakeholders that we just enumerated on as far as conservation is concerned, and integrating women more in the field of conservation?
Yeah, thank you. I think I will recommend what I will call integrated downward accountability and transparency, and equally conservable brainstorming. Yeah.
Wait. Break it down.
Yeah.
I think there's a young child, a little baby watching us somewhere, and I think there's equally a grandmother, maybe somewhere at Tole, watching us. Please, let's, in as much as it's some kind of a little bit elevated, it's a heavy heated program, we need to equally satisfy. We have different types of viewers, so pipe down.
Okay.
I said it. She has so much stuff. Just try to pipe it down, okay, so that we can understand, so everybody can understand.
Okay, thank you. What I mean by conservable or sustainable brainstorming, brainstorming should not be done like we earlier cited some of those ministries. You don't just sit amongst yourself and you do the brainstorming. When we talk of sustainable, it engulfs everybody, taking a decision that will benefit not just those living now, but the future generation. And you cannot just take that decision just with particular people. That way you'll be working on assumptions. So it's good you involve even the least mama in Tole to take part in your brainstorming session. Like from time to time, like he made mention, you could go to the field work, where you work hand in glove with CIGs, NGOs, see how they could gather this group of women, even men, not leaving them out, because the way this gender mainstreaming thing is becoming, if men are not careful, they'll be left out. So you involve everybody in it. That way you gather a mass of ideas, so many ideas that you're going to work on, and you're guaranteed that a decision which you're going to take is going to be the best. So when I talk of integrated downward accountability and transparency, you don't leave out anybody, being it a primary school child, being it a secondary school child, university, being it handicap, what level, you involve everybody. Their opinion should count, because most of the times we sit in our offices, we just work on assumptions that this will go, and most of the times they end up failing. But if you take into consideration every opinion counts, bet you me you will not leave out anybody. That way you are sure that everybody is being involved.
Definitely, not everybody's opinions count, and nobody should be equally left out as far as conservation is concerned. And we are encouraging women to get involved in conservation because they are the immediate users of the natural resources, and if anything happens to that, they will be the first to feel the impact. That is how we saw today's edition of the program. We were talking on the role women should do, or the role women have to do as far as conservation is concerned. If you missed out this edition, catch a rebroadcast on Tuesday at 10 a.m. or catch us next week, same time, same station, and same day. That's Thursday on High Television at 3:30 p.m. It is on that note that we draw the curtains of today's edition. And before I let go of you, just want to remind you that this program is sponsored by the Resource Center for Environment and Sustainable Development. Until next week, it is God bless. Stay tuned for more interesting programs on High Television. Bye-bye.
Green, first edition. Come on.